And what about the details? So that's always an interesting one to me. Sometimes when you're doing research, one of my favorite things is sometimes reality is better than you imagined.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember it must have been the 90s, and I had a scene where somebody was delivering the mail on the executive floor of the FBI, which seemed really normal to me. And then I went to take a look, and they had robots
Mm.
that
In the
delivered the
90s.
mail. This was like back in the 90s.
Wow.
Like I
Yeah.
never seen anything. And I thought that's so much cooler than
Yeah.
what I could have imagined. But
Right.
then sometimes you go out, like I know you go and fly fighter jets and shoot all the guns and everything. And you've written for Clancy, which is really interesting because that guy wrote at a level of detail that I don't think would be readable today.
I agree. Yeah.
And so is there a big session, maybe in editing, where you think, what do I cut out? What do I need to leave out? Or where did I just drone on forever? Because my
Yeah.
wife sometimes will tell me, wow, you were really interested in that. Cut it.
Yeah. 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 I've gotten better at it the further I've gone in my career. And it was not me early on. It was definitely my editor, Tom Colgan, who would go, yeah, you're going long here. And he was always right. And when he would point it out, I would always know what it was about that I wanted to I, the reason why I wanted to keep it in there. And it was never to propel the story. It was always because, that's a fascinating tidbit that people should understand, and that's not really how you write the best fiction, even though
I
it
always
was a,
think of you saying, well, I threw up 3 times on that flight. I'm
yeah,
writing all the details.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I earned this.
And I do have to clarify, I flew in a fighter plane.
Right. In a flight.
I mean,
Yes. Right.
I did get to take the controls for a moment, but I didn't do anything that sexy. I just I wanted the guy up front to be able to do all that.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, it always feels like when you pull that stuff out, it always hurts at first. And I don't think anything's ever been edited out of one of my books that it hurt the story by editing it out. It's more the opposite. The longest book I ever wrote was 217,000 words. It was a really big story with a lot of plots and a lot of characters. And I felt like it needed it. But the first draft of that was 249,000. So,
Mm.
took a lot
Yeah,
out of
mine
that.
always get shorter in the second draft too. I think it's
Yeah.
easy to sort of blither on.
Yeah.
I've always pictured you writing with Clancy though, and him saying, no, more detail.
Yeah, but you said it earlier, and I think you're absolutely right that like that techno thriller that came out in the 80s and into the 90s, if somebody turning that in today, trying to be published, I think would just not be successful. I don't think that's what readers want. I think they want a level of detail. They want to feel like it's a credible story. They want to be people want to be taken, behind the door that says do not enter and learn about things, but it has to be in the propulsion of the story where that happens. It's like you have to hide all your exposition and all your
Yeah.
all your detail. And gosh, some people think I put a ton of detail about guns in, but I see some authors that put 50 times more, and some people put in a lot less, and it certainly doesn't hurt their story. It's just kind of what feels right. And things that you know more about, you're going to probably get a little more detailed about. If I'm doing a scuba diving scene, I'll probably write with more detail than a skydiving scene because I've never skydived. But
Right.
so I think that's just all writers are going to get caught in that bias a little bit. But, again, editing, having somebody else come in and go like, okay, you're losing control of your brain right here. Let's get
But
it.
even at two, you said you did 217,000
Yeah.
words. Like that's a long thriller for the
Yeah.
current context, for
Yes.
sure.
It was a book I co-authored, and it was a military thriller. It involved a lot of elements in different countries, and it's called Red Metal, and it felt like it needed it. 217 felt like is the deepest cut that I could, that we could make. But in truth, it was what our editor let us have, and